Kent County Planning Commission meeting. That guy sounds terrible. I'll take the roll call of our members. James Saunders.
Here.
Ray Strong.
Here.
Sean Jones.
Here.
Paul Ruge.
Here.
Bill Crowdy.
Here.
And I'm Joe Hickman. We have the minutes of the February 6th meeting in front of us. I hope everyone had a chance to review, and if there's any amendments, corrections, please offer them, or else let's offer a motion to accept them.
I move that the minutes be accepted.
Second.
Second.
Good. All in favor? Aye.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we go into closed session for legal advice.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now he needs Carl back.
Got all kinds of Post-its. It's not saying so, it'll be Tesla. It'll be Tesla. All right, thanks, bro.
Especially if you have to go line by line and see what you're put on hold right off. If you try to go, I think you can't be able to do that.
The lumber products are like on. Yeah, they would be going to the war on waiting on the reviews, so something's going for them. So I suggest that, and the CCCM projects, they're just gonna sit for a while, and then it's time to go. Right.
I don't know if it's any good, better. I gotta find my agenda now.
A lot of people came in this room just to hear on that. They
Yeah,
were all gonna-
well, that's what. Staff, are we ready? After our closed session for legal advice, we're going to take up the matter on an item 1 for 2267 and 2328. Does anyone have a motion?
Mr. President, I make a motion as regards to Everton Industrial 22-67 and 23-28, that we, after discussion with legal counsel, have decided to postpone this for the next meeting in order to review the minutes from the meeting in question and come back and make a decision.
I believe you may want to amend that. My understanding is you wish to review the transcript as well.
Yes. And review the transcript.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second it.
Second, any discussion? And we clearly have that transcript on there, so I'll call the question. Bill Crowdy,
Aye.
Paul Rogie,
Aye.
Sean Jones,
Aye.
Ray Strong, Jim Saunders, and I'll vote with the affirmative. Thank you. Our next application is number 2208, Still Pond Neck, extension of major site plan approval. This is a planning commission decision. Staff, thank you, Mark.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Carper, Associate Planner. As you mentioned, we have 25809A, Still Pond Neck LLC is requesting an extension to approval of the site plan. They had received an extension for final site plan approval previously due to some delays that were cited at that time. There have been additional delays as well, so for this application, they're seeking a second extension of the final site plan approval. Our recommendation is that the extension do be granted. The conditions of the final site plan approval were listed, and they made progress in those regards, and most of those are pending. And they have submitted an application for permit to begin construction this summer, and they're just seeking an extension of the final site plan approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any correspondence?
No correspondence on this.
Is the applicant or their representative here? Thank you. Can you raise your right hand? Is it testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes. State your name and address for records, please.
Seth Schaefer, 1601 Wewata Street, Suite 700, Denver, Colorado, 80202.
And I'm Ted Hastings with Becker Morgan Group. We're at 312 West Main Street in Salisbury, Maryland.
Go ahead.
Okay. This project is moving forward. It's been a little bit of a slow mover. We have gotten approvals from sediment erosion controls, from our management. We're just finalizing a few things with the decommissioning plan bonds. We already have the contractor lined up. We're just trying to get this finalized, put a bell on it so we can start construction. So we're right there. So we just need this extension to get us over the finish line.
What happened differently from the last time? Is it, what are the specific issues that?
The specific issues are one was getting our decommissioning landscaping bond. It was something where when Mr. Yeager tried to get potentially a meeting with him just to understand some of the terms of the agreement. So that's one thing we're working towards. Then really the only thing, like was mentioned, is we had submitted the building permit, but obviously the site plan needs to be approved prior to that. So we have a contractor on board and ready to start, just need to finalize these agreements. So that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? or applicant or staff?
No, I'm not.
Is there anyone in the public or anyone who wishes to speak to this application? Hearing none, it's up here for, to approve the staff recommendation or disapprove.
I'll make a recommendation. I recommend that we grant 25809A Still Pond Neck LLC a 12-month extension of the site plan approval for the installation of a utility-scale solar energy system on an 85-acre farm owned by Raymond and Joyce Stolfus. It appears from testimony that they have made significant steps towards obtaining final approval, and for those reasons listed, I make that recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second. Call for the vote. Paul Ruge?
Aye.
Sean Jones?
Aye.
Ray Strong? Jim Saunders? Bill Crowding?
Aye.
And I'll vote with the affirmative. So we'll grant that 12 months.
Thank you very much.
Our next application is 2334 Morgan Neck Solar, major site plan review, and this is a final plan. Busy, Mark.
As mentioned, Morgan Neck Road Solar LLC is seeking final site plan review and approval for the proposed 245-acre utility-scale energy system, which is to be located at 616 Morgan Neck Road near Chestertown. Preliminary site plan approval was granted by the Planning Commission October 3rd, 2024. Had a list of conditions associated with that. Those include that MDOT SHA approval of the proposed facility entrance, approved irrigation plan, final approval of the landscape maintenance agreement, approval and recordation of the deed of forest conservation easement agreement, approval of urban grids, erosion, sediment control, and stormwater management plans, submission approval of sureties for sediment erosion control and stormwater management, submission approval of sureties for landscape maintenance and bond requirements for decommissioning, that the applicant obtain all required state and federal permits, that the final plan provides for the location of substation in location number 2. If you recall from previously, there were 2 options, and the second one was preferred. That the applicant be afforded the flexibility to provide 90% of native plantings, that the existing berm plan is deemed adequate and meets the requirements of land use ordinance. And the last one is the applicant provides assurance that the project will meet the county noise ordinance requirements. Since that meeting, the applicant has submitted evidence showing that they are adhering or providing irrigation. So in their landscaping plan, they do include irrigation lines in the bermed portions. They also indicate that the substation is in the preferred location, number 2, on the original plan. And let's see, also that the applicants they have utilized non-native plantings. Originally, they had gone with entirely native. So utilize non-native for increased screening of the substation. And the last one, that they would be adhering to the county noise ordinance, no greater than 45 decibels at the property line. So the remaining of those are still in process. So based upon that, the staff is recommending approval of final site plan with the following conditions: that they do get approval from MDOT SHA for the facility entrance, that the approval of the landscape maintenance agreement is met, approval and recordation of the deed of forest conservation easement agreement, approval of the erosion, sediment control, and stormwater management plans, approval of sureties for sediment and erosion control and stormwater management, submission approval of sureties for landscape maintenance, and the applicant obtains all required state and federal permits. They have submitted materials for each of those, and those are under review. We anticipate that those will be provided, and we are recommending approval of this final site plan.
Thank you. Is there any correspondence?
There was. We had one correspondence email from neighbor. This was Jeremy Farrow, and I gave you copies of that correspondence and gave copies to the applicant. He had written, as one of the only houses in the project area and will be directly connected, I have concerns about the access road and park. The road will be right next to my property, and am concerned it will generate a lot of traffic next to my house. Also concerned about water quality due to as well being right next to the construction zone. And he asked whether construction might cause flooding on his property due to extra runoff, and his property being the lowest point in the project area. So he has some concern over his safety as well due to the park access going next to his house, which may make it very easy for people to get into his personal property or on his property. So that's a summary of what he had written. And other than that, there's no other correspondence on this application.
Any questions for Mark? Any questions for Mark? Okay, or is the applicant or their representatives here today?
They are.
Thank you all. Can the non-attorneys raise their right hand? Or is the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Give your names and addresses for the record, please.
I'll start. Genevieve McFarland on behalf of Morgneck Solar LLC. I am with Stevens Palmer at 114 West Water Street, Centerville.
And I'm Valerie Newcomb, Vice President of Economic and Community Development for Urban Grid. My address is 2425 Williston Drive, Charlottesville, Virginia.
My name is Krista Ortiz, and I'm a development manager for Morgneck Road Solar. My address is 1200 Smith Street, Houston, Texas.
I'm Nick Leffner with Kimley Horn. Our address is 215 Washington Avenue, Suite 500 in Towson.
Thank you.
So we're here today for final site plan approval. You are very familiar with this project. We've been before you quite a few times. There have been some updates to the site plan based on staff comments, as well as updates to legal documents Mr. Yeager and I had worked through, and we're here to present that and certainly answer any questions that there might be, as well as to make sure that there is a very clear record of findings so as we move forward with this. So with that, I'll turn it over to Krista Ortiz, who will give us an overview of the project and where things are now.
Do you want to ask for the presentation?
Oh, the slides.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think we can skip the first two because Genevieve's going to close that out. Yep. Jumping into the project overview. As a recap, Morgneck Road Solar is a 45 megawatt AC only project sited on 229 acres on the Clark's Farm along Morgneck Road. This project exercised a lease back in April of 2024, and the project has gently sloping topography and will be enclosed by both an irrigated berm and a security fence. This berm will also be vegetated. In addition to that, the solar project is sited within 4 zoning districts, and it will connect into the Delmarva Power and Light Chestertown substation on the southwest side of the project. Should final major site plan approval be granted by the Planning Commission today, our target timeline for the project, meeting all the requirements, would be mobilization by Q2 of this year and the commercial operation date by the end of 2025. Morgan Neck Road Solar received its state level permit, conditional CPCN in April of 2022 and plans to comply with the conditions of this permit as well as any local requirements, including visual screening, setbacks, noise, and drainage requirements. With that, I'll turn it over to Nick to highlight project progress since prelim site plan approval, as well as site plan updates.
Thanks for the time. I think if the PowerPoint's up there, we want to go to the next one. We kind of outlined some of the conditions. Just having been before, I think most of the board members, there's one new one. I don't plan to go through an entire description of the entire project like we did multiple times at the prelim site plan approval level. More so I want to just give updates and then just changes to the plan from what you would have seen at preliminary plan. In general, nothing really that was discussed during the preliminary plan approval has really changed about the project. Fence is in the same location. There's still a screening gate provided at the main entrance. The berm's still 3 to 5 feet high. The plants are still the same size. The only change really regarding the landscaping was the introduction of the up to 10% non-native species that were planted around the substation location. And then I'd say various department approvals. So that's what we kind of wanted to give an update on. The first one was the condition just to get the State Highway Administration access permit. I think we've had 2 or 3 meetings with SHA. We've made 2 plan submissions. We just got a letter back from them on our second submission with a couple of minor comments from their survey department and their hydraulics group, really just referring to wanting to see the county approval before they'll sign off on the access permit plan. So we do expect 1 more submission to SHA before they'd accept the plan. But the comments were, I would say, just technical in nature, not really regarding where the entrance is located or how the entrance is designed, more so just wanting to see some more supporting calculations from a runoff standpoint. The next one was the irrigation plan. I think the documents that we submitted for the final site plan review included both the irrigation layout and irrigation plan in it. The portion of the site that has a berm will be fully irrigated. There's a planned irrigation well kind of in the southwest corner of the property with irrigation lines kind of on either side of the berm, which should be in the package if you have a plan set with the landscape details. The next one was a landscape maintenance agreement, kind of referenced earlier, but that's currently being coordinated with the county planning and zoning group and Tom. I think we kind of have the form agreed to, and we'd expect after a hopeful approval today that we'd be able to finalize that cost estimate, understanding there wouldn't be any changes to the plant materials on the site. We could finalize the cost estimate, have a bond prepared, and hopefully execute the agreement quickly. The next one is the sediment control and stormwater approvals. So the Kent Soil and Water Conservation Districts approved the plan. So we have a stamped plan from their department, and the stormwater management, we had a call with them, I think last Friday. They had a couple of outstanding comments that they wanted us to do an additional site visit, take some photos of key locations for them rather than them going out to the project area. So we actually have a site visit planned next week. We'll get a couple of pictures, get a plan back into DPW for hopefully for them to sign off and approve the stormwater plan. Through our coordination with DPW, because the project's able to implement the non-structural, kind of like natural stormwater treatment practices with grass swales and non-rooftop disconnect practices, DPW doesn't expect to require a surety for the project for stormwater management because the grading, stabilization, and I'd say kind of like all things associated with the stormwater management practices will actually be bonded, and the surety would be provided as part of the sediment control or the grading permit application surety. So we've kind of coordinated with each of the departments to make sure we're bonding everything that's needed. But currently we don't expect to have a stormwater surety. We do expect to have a sediment control surety that would kind of cover both of their areas. The next was the landscape and decommissioning bond. We have, again, a cost estimate prepared, an agreement in place that hopefully we'll be able to execute after an approval today. The decommissioning plan has also been revised and resubmitted to the State Public Service Commission. And so, with that, there's kind of two parts. There's the plan, and then once the plan gets approved, there's a bond amount associated with it. So I think from what I understand, they've approved the plan, and now we're kind of at the point where we can actually provide the bond. For state and federal permits, I think this condition of the preliminary site plan approval, and I'd expect it to also be a condition of the final site plan approval. It's also a condition of our state CPCN license. We fully intend to meet all state and local permits for the projects and codes. The site plan that you have in front of you has a copy of substation location number 2. Just as a reminder, that was the location that was closer to Mork Neck Road as opposed to closer to the western portion of the property. So the submitted plans you have should reflect the substation location along Mork Neck Road as opposed to, or I would say the original location was further to the west side of the property. There's also a blow-up on the plan of the substation area that shows the additional plantings that were added around the substation footprint. Those are the non-native plantings that I think, we tried to listen at the preliminary meeting here. There was an adjoining neighbor that wanted to have some additional screening put in, so kind of took what we heard and tried to put it on the plan, and so there's a blow-up of the substation area included in your plan set that shows those additional plantings around the perimeter of the project collector substation. And again, the berm, I think, the last hearing, we provided the berm, and nothing's changed about where the berm is, how tall the berm is. So the berm's essentially exactly as what was proposed last for the preliminary site plan. And then I think the last one, I don't know if you want to go to the next screen. That's just kind of an overall copy. It's similar to the one that we had shared at the last meeting. Rather than put slides and slides and slides to present the whole project, I guess it's kind of tough to see on the screen, but this is just an updated copy. It wasn't included in your package just because this was one of the materials that we presented during the preliminary site plan meeting. We updated the stabilization showing the exact same berm locations we presented at preliminary. We just updated this exhibit to show the substation location at option number 2 as opposed to showing both of the substation locations.
And that's on the next slide.
Yep. Go to the next slide. So that's a copy of kind of a snip. Again, it's in your plan set. That's the substation location, again, closer to Mork Neck Road, not on the west side of the project. And then the kind of circles surrounding it are the additional landscape plantings.
Val, do you want to
Okay.
take it over?
So,
Yeah.
I think if there's questions, I think, we
I
described the project in detail last time, but yeah, I just wanted to see if you had the chance to review the package.
was,
I would answer questions.
I was looking over your vegetation management plan. How long, and then you're talking about sheep grazing as well, how long are you going to let that grass seeding take hold before we turn sheep out on it? I mean, they're hard on grass as it is, let alone.
Well,
Does
the
it
sheep
take-
won't be introduced until spring of 2026. So if, we receive approval today and the schedule is what Nick described, we make sure the seed, is well rooted and there will be food for the sheep to eat between now and then probably late April, May, I would say, of next year.
I have a question on the maintenance inspection agreement with the county. Number 7, it says, during the term of this agreement, the responsible party shall remove dead or dying plant material and replace plant material as directed by the county. Does the county have to cite you every time a tree's dead, or we have short staff, I would say that you replace everything immediately that dies, instead of than the county writing a letter to you. We've seen other examples of other solar around here in Queen Anne's County, particularly on some of that the landscaping is clearly deficient. And the county staff is only so much to go out and walk the berm and see if there's dead trees. So I don't know why we have to direct you to do that.
Can we request that a timeline be implemented, Genevieve?
Um,
Just so that we have
let me
time to
just-
get out there, so you can review.
Let me just take a quick look at what the wording is.
Number 7, I mean, they will direct you if they see it. I'm just saying, we don't have staff to walk the thing, and you're gonna have, well, there should be some people around there.
Yeah, we're happy to speak with, council and amend that to get some sort of, timeframe, for the owner to have to remove the dead plant material, and reword that if we make that a condition of final site plan.
Okay. All right, thank you.
If I may, while we're also on the topic of some housekeeping things, for the forest conservation easement, I wanted to bring to your attention that the Fair Promise Family Limited Partnership did file articles of conversion, and they are now Morgneck Creek LLC. So I do have an updated forest conservation easement with the name change only that I'll submit to review.
Go.
Should we go forward?
Any more questions for Nick? Okay. Okay.
I'm really, I think more of the people in King County than anybody. And from the neighbor that's very concerned about this, to do this, you have to make sure that that neighbor is well taken care of, protected. You just don't put something in and walk away and that neighbor's still complaining. So your main objective first is to take care of them neighbors. Put that in there, in your note. I don't know how you're gonna do it, but you gotta have him where he's comfortable. When you put something in, you gotta make sure that he's comfortable. Not sit there and just put your project in, because he's very concerned about this.
And Val?
I'm available to the neighbor. I know that they've been here before. I'm happy to talk to them throughout the construction process. That's when we hear typically mostly from neighbors when we do bring in the equipment and we have folks on site working. And I'm absolutely available to hear their concerns and address them as quickly and as best as we can, so.
And
I
Jeremy was
appreciate
the
it.
one that
Yeah,
had
and
the
Jeremy,
concern.
and if you're done with questions for Nick, I have some updates for you all too. We just did an open house the other night, and the gentleman who lives right there came to our open house, and we had the chance to meet with him and his wife, and, so I don't want to interrupt what you were covering, however.
No, yeah, I think to the letter part, the project where it's really being developed actually isn't in kind of the drainage area that goes towards this property. There's kind of a hump on the property right in the critical area boundary. We're not doing anything in the critical area except putting more landscape in. So if anything, it should reduce the amount of runoff that's going to his property today. The one just difficult thing is, like a lot of properties, if the house was built and the lot wasn't graded and he's had ponding on his property for years, it's like we're not necessarily, we can't go onto his property and fix it. But I think we were mindful to show that there's reduction of runoff going to his property. And I think they have a good open line of contact so that if there's any concerns.
And they were under the impression that a park was being built with a parking area, and that's not a part of the project. So we spent time with them, showed them exactly on the plan where their project is. And I think there was some confusion about the buffering and the installation of the plant material across the front of the site, and that being construed as a park at one point. So they were very relieved that that was not the case.
And
I
in-
think the letter mentioned a driveway being right next to their house. Like,
Right.
there
It's
aren't
not
any
the case.
driveways
Yeah.
next to their house. So I think they may have just seen a previous version of the plan or information about the project. And
Yeah.
I understand, they connected with them just earlier this week.
Yeah.
and kinda
We
clarified.
also provided the contact of our Urban Grid construction site manager that will be on site during the build-out of this project, and introduced the two of them. So he has them on speed dial. He can call them anytime if he has any concerns that may come up.
But that'd be good.
Yep, he has that information. That's
Yeah.
German.
I'll be running around and looking at the project. Anyway,
Please do.
thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Okay, well, good to be back. Thank you all for giving us the time today. And like Nick, I have a few updates, so I'll try and stick to those so I don't repeat myself from previous times. But in your packet, you'll see information on, the things that haven't changed, the anticipated job creation, economic boost, the scholarship program, none of that has changed. That's moving forward. One thing that's slightly different is our community support. We've spent a few months looking at, nonprofits in the area that could possibly benefit from a grant. We're in touch with the fire departments here and in Kennedyville and have targeted them for a grant, as well as an organization brought to our attention by one of the nonprofits that is part of the Gateway Committee. So I wanted to talk for a moment. One big update, one thing I've been focused on is the Gateway Committee. You may recall from October that we coalesced around the idea that we would form a committee to get the varying opinions from the public into a committee so we could make some decisions and move forward on what the Gateway amenity is. Because it's a condition of the CPCN, we want to make sure that we meet that obligation and also incorporate all of the opinions of the public, but do it in such a way that we can keep the ball moving forward. So the news is, last month the Gateway Committee kicked off. We had an in-person meeting. It's comprised of 7 entities, one of which is Urban Grid. Also the Planning Commission here at, the Housing and Zoning, Mr. Mackey, I know he's in the room. He and Carla are part of the committee. Also Larry DeRay from the town of Chestertown is part of the committee. A couple of nonprofits, Shore Rivers, and also the Kent Conservation and Preservation Alliance are part of the committee, as well as the representatives from the Public Arts Committee to speak to the arts feature. And lastly, an individual contributor, and a community member who's also a master gardener here in town. So these 7 entities will work on majority rules and meet monthly on the 3rd Wednesdays of the month to formulate the plan. And in your packet, you'll see the rough calendar that we've scoped out. So we're going to meet again in March and, talk about this week's activities and also get to the next steps of, what the it is. What is the Gateway going to be? We've got to move that forward so we can present a thorough plan to you all for sign-off. The other update is the community open house. So this past Tuesday evening, we had a successful open house here at the Kent Community Center. We had about 30 residents show up throughout our 2-hour open house, one of which was Mr. Farrow and his wife. And, the idea of that is to meet with our subject matter experts, to hear from engineering and our EPC company, the Engineering Procurement Construction Company, DEPCOM, who are going to be building the site. Urban Grid has on staff a site manager for every one of our projects under construction. That gentleman will be living here and working on the site, and he was in attendance to meet residents. He's the one that people should call during the whole construction period. He and I are in close touch on any neighbor issues that go on. It's just part of our process in building the projects. We were pleased that we saw, so many folks turn out on Tuesday. The weather was on our side, and I see a couple of folks in the room here tonight that also, or this afternoon, that joined us on Tuesday. The last update I have is on our agrivoltaics program. As you can imagine, we got a lot of questions. People wondered why we had sheep grazers at our open house, and we got to explain and educate to the folks there what we're planning to do. We did have our sheep grazing company there who work with us in Virginia, and kind of the news on agrivoltaics here is, and I think we talked about this last time, there aren't a lot of sheep grazers on the eastern shore of Maryland. In May, we don't have a date yet, but we're going to do a half-day workshop that's kind of aimed at any farmers interested in the opportunity to work with us. We're going to do an education program and offer to do certification of folks who are interested in getting into this with us. We won't have sheep on the site until next spring, so we have a solid year to train up, work with folks locally, and fold them into our process of kind of an apprentice program so that we can have local, sheep grazers if they're interested. So I think we already have some interest because the other night we had some folks passing me, numbers and contacting me. So this is a way for, we have 4 projects, I think, on the Eastern Shore, and we're looking at doing something mid-shore so that the whole region could be exposed to the opportunity, and then have folks locally here in Kent County doing the project here. A couple of folks did ask me, will they be able to see the sheep? Residents, folks who came to the meeting. So, as you know, you won't be able to see the sheep from Morg Neck Road, but there was general excitement about the program, I have to say, and surprise, too. So we know we have some wood to chop on that front, but I think in the community, we've made some good progress, and that's my update. And I think, if you have any other questions for me, happy to take them, but I'll pass it back to you.
I have to ask you one more question, and it was about, I think I heard it right, it was about this scholarship. Do you offer that scholarship every year?
Yes, every year the project is operating, so 30-plus years. In the first year of the scholarship, it's matched by our construction company. So in May of '26, we'll have $10,000 awarded in 4 scholarships of $2,500 each. And I don't know if you recall, eligibility is high school seniors who plan to go to technical school or community college. And that's, in short, the program. And we'll continue it every year,
Okay,
and it'll be a part of the project ongoing.
all right, thanks.
On your, a lot of what you mentioned, the community is not part of the site plan or review
That's
today.
correct.
But you mentioned the gateway. On final site plan, there will be a gateway plan.
So I think that, for the final site plan, I think we're submitted the final site plan that meets all the conditions and requirements of the county's land use ordinance. So we're kind of requesting final approval of the
I
final
understand, that's
site
why
plan.
I'm asking, you
Hey,
said about,
Genevieve.
she had mentioned that it was, that you were working with, so it could be presented as a plan to us, but not in this plan.
I may have misspoke
So,
about the formality of that.
If I may, actually, Mr. Yeager and I spoke about this prior to today. The CPCN requires that this be put into action 5 years, I believe, after the CPCN approval. So at this point, we're asking to bifurcate the gateway approval from the final site plan approval and have that, because there is action being taken toward developing this gateway project, that it does not hold up the final site plan approval at this point, but it will
So
be
are
approved.
you making that request, an additional request today to bifurcate?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Well, the staff didn't address that.
I don't think the gateway improvement is a requirement of the site plan approval. I think it was just part of
She-
our.
It was a CPCN requirement, and it wasn't, I'm essentially asking that we, have the approval for the site plan.
I understand, but you
separate
said we
from
bifurcate. I don't know if the CPCN required a gateway, that should be, shouldn't that be part of the final plan?
And I think
The gateway's
I
part
think
of it.
it's due
It's
to the
collectively.
timeframe. So per the CPCN condition, it states that once we're granted conditional CPCN approval, which was April of 2022, we have 5 years to implement a gateway amenity. And so that would put 2 more years still on our clock to implement. And this is an amenity that wouldn't be installed until the end of project construction. So we have time to continue progressing the gateway as a team locally in the next few months. And then we would like to come back and present what the committee decides on. But Val,
That's
if you have
right.
anything additional.
Just only to add that there was so
Yeah.
much discussion about the gateway, and the gateway is happening, and we have a general idea of the location. As you go along Morg Neck Road into Chestertown, it would be on the right side on the property. We just talked to our landowner about, that being there as a permanent feature forever, and giving time to the community to weigh in. So taking that time, we wouldn't install it until after the project is complete, and then do an unveiling as part of a public launch of the gateway, whatever it happens to be. I don't want to call it a sign and misspeak on behalf of the committee, because we don't know what the "it" is yet.
Bill, I was staff.
Chair, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, the Gateway Committee is going to decide sort of what that gateway is. That it is possible that it might not be on site. I mean, there's a lot of options for that. So if it were to be on site, we could certainly come back with a very small piece for your all's review that would be that piece on the site that would change for that. But It wouldn't necessarily have to be approved as part of this general site plan, it may or may not be on the site. And for the assurance that the project will occur, this is a condition of the CPC and granted by the state. They would literally lose their license to operate it if they did not complete it within the time. So we certainly have assurances.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Hearing none. Is there anyone in the public that would wish to speak? Go ahead. I'm sorry,
Sorry, if I
didn't
may.
mean to cut you off, sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to submit into the record, we have both a point-by-point of how the site plan complies with the solar ordinance, as well as a point-by-point of how the site plan complies with the CPCN license and all of that. So I'd like to submit that to the record. And I had also moved this updated easement in as well. And then I had mentioned at the outset that we're here to create a really solid record. I just want to take Mr. Leffner through the findings that the Planning Commission is required to make, and just do a short explanation on each point of those. So first, we're going to start off with, can you explain the conformance with the comprehensive plan and where applicable the village master plan?
Yeah, I think the county's master plan, and I think this may have been kind of discussed or presented at one of the previous meetings also. And it kind of goes back to, I think, way back in the project. But with the comprehensive plan of the county, I think it recommends promoting sustainable building practices and providing effective renewable resource energy, which is exactly what this project is. It encourages energy and water efficient building design and using appropriate alternative energy sources, this being one of those alternative energy sources. To permit and encourage individual renewable energy within land that's suitable for larger scale renewable energy facilities, which this is just that, a large property that's able to support a renewable energy project. And then also in the comprehensive plan, and I think, though I don't think we've talked about it in a few meetings, it does make mention of the Chestertown bypass. And so that was, an area that we haven't talked a lot about, but the setback provided off of that western property area was essentially, done in consideration of the comprehensive plan. Should that project happen, kind of there's room for a roadway or a bypass to be constructed in the area, knowing that may take a long time. Likewise, the town also has a comprehensive plan, and I think one thing that really kind of stood out in that is just the potential for this property to be annexed into the town, and have, utilities, but even in the comprehensive plan, it didn't identify that as happening soon. I think it doesn't even really identify it happening within the next, at the time, 20 years. It said kind of a future opportunity to be annexed into the town and support what is now zoned to support. And I think this project, aligns with that as well. And the fact that we talked about, there's a landowner, they're gonna remain the landowner, and the property's just gonna be leased. There's both a useful life of the project and also a lease term associated with the project. So once it's reached either of those terms, the project would be decommissioned, and then it could be returned either to agriculture, or potentially that would be the time that it could be annexed into the town or developed into, whatever the zoning would support at the time.
Right. Next is conformance with the provisions of all applicable rules and regulations of county, state, and federal agencies.
Yeah, but the project will, I think that's why we're here, to meet one of those requirements, to get local site plan approval. We kind of said stormwater approval we're expecting, state highway. There's CPCN condition filings that we'll make back to the states showing that we've met all of the local kind of plan review requirements. So, yeah, the project will meet both of those.
Convenience and safety of both vehicular and pedestrian movement within the site and in relationship to adjoining ways and properties.
Yeah, I think it's kind of multiple fold for that. One of the CPCN condition requirements is that we prepare a traffic management plan that gets shared with
It's under
construction employees.
State highway review currently.
Yeah, and so it's under review now. It essentially says here, here's how to get from Route 301, come down Mork Neck Road to get to the property, be aware of on-site bicyclists. You have to use this route unless there's, an accident or some kind of temporary detour that they could go onto side roads in order to get to the site. So there's a traffic management plan that'll get shared with all personnel that's on the property. The contractor has a safety manager. They're on site full-time, and they often require their subcontractors to have safety managers that are on site. There's really not much traffic on site, to be honest. It's mainly construction equipment, which is why there's safety managers on site. Off-site, with the permitting of the access permit and the utility permit for the underground connection over to the substation. They also require temporary traffic control plans. So, they'll review shoulder closures. There shouldn't be any lane closures, but, the temporary traffic control measures out in the road would be reviewed and approved by SHA too.
Provisions for off-street loading and unloading of vehicles incidental to normal operation of the establishment, adequate lighting, and internal traffic control.
Yeah, I think that really ties to the traffic management plan that identifies goals for the number of trucks even to come to the site so that they can be stored in the site, not out on the road, and a limitation to not allow tractor trailers or construction equipment to back out onto Mork Neck Road. So it's kind of a traffic management plan that's under review with SHA right now, but the intent is that all the vehicles essentially would get off of the road, come into the site so that they can be managed on site, and there wouldn't be any effect on the adjacent road.
Reasonable demands placed on public services and infrastructure.
Yeah, there's really not a ton, right? I think we touched on that at a previous meeting where, this isn't a project that's gonna impact local schools because it's not sending any kids to the schools. There's no requirement for sanitary sewer or water service. Once it's constructed, there's really very few trips to it, so it's not putting a burden on local roads with traffic. And then likewise, emergency services too, right? It's secured within a fence line. There's not a huge demand on local fire, police, or ambulatory responses, so.
Adequacy of methods for sewage and refuse disposal and the protection from pollution of both surface waters and groundwater. This includes minimizing soil erosion both during and after construction.
Yep. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of local codes that apply to that. I think one that we talked the most about is the sediment control and stormwater management, which is received the sediment control approval from the Kent Soil Water Conservation District for pollution control during construction from stormwater runoff. The Department of Public Works going the site visit to get them some pictures of the existing conditions and getting their approval would be kind of, I'd say, post-construction stormwater controls, preventing pollution to downstream waterways. Internal to the site, there's also a lot of codes that apply to limitations on fuel storage, secondary containment of any kind of, some of the transformer equipments like transformers in neighborhoods. Some of them have oil in them for just cooling purposes. They're designed to have adequate containment within them. The contractor will have a plan on place during construction to say, in the event of an accidental spill, this is how you clean it up. You have to keep materials on site so that you can clean it up immediately. So yeah, I would say there's a lot of both local and national codes that pertain to pollution or potential sources of pollution that the contractor will have on file and implement through construction.
Protection of abutting properties and county amenities from any undue disturbance caused by excessive or unreasonable noise, smoke, vapors, fumes, dust, odors, glare, stormwater runoff, etc.
Yep. There's a lot of measures. I think stormwater and sediment control we've talked to a couple of times. I think one of the conditions that was on was meeting the noise ordinance for just the permanent construction equipment on site. So the inverter locations are all located far away from the property line. Usually the noise from those dissipates over distance. So I'd say, typically the inverters, I haven't seen their final cut sheet, but it's usually like within 100 feet. It's like below, it's not audible beyond the fence line. And that's not even considering the landscape buffer that's surrounding the majority of the property. And from dust control, I think that's one that, during construction, there's got dust control measures where they have to essentially spray it with water to keep dust from forming. If not, then once they stabilize it with the vegetation, then the dust kind of isn't an issue once the site's stabilized and turned over to operation.
Minimizing the area over which existing vegetation is to be removed Where tree removal is required, special attention shall be given to planting of replacement trees.
Yep. So I think first, the project was designed to avoid as many impacts to trees as possible, right? So I think the forest stand delineation was done, the forest, which there's kind of a definition of what a forest is. The forests were all avoided from the project. There are some hedgerows within the site, so individual trees, lower vegetation that'll get removed within a couple portions of the project. We're gonna far exceed replacing that with the placement of the landscape buffer around the perimeter of the project. Limiting the sediment, like disturbances and removal of vegetation kind of within the array. I would say that's probably what we've been doing the most since we were last here and we received the preliminary site plan approval, was coordinating both with the Department of Public Works and the Kent Soil Water Conservation District to understand the earth movement operations, where soils will be moved to, how stabilization would occur. I'd say the biggest thing that the project kind of committed to in the Soil Conservation District approval is sequencing the operation across the site so that grading is only done in kind of limited areas on the project before they move to the next one. And once they're done working in an area, and it's called out on the sediment erosion control plan, kind of where the areas are that they're allowed to work in at a time, that they stabilize it. So they would plant seed, and then there's actually I think it was a 4 or 6 week period where you don't do any work and you just allow the grass to germinate and begin growing before you start working in the area again. And that does have a little bit of flexibility in the plan, you know, the hope that we're building during a good season where you can get grass growth a little bit faster, versus if it's taking a little bit longer, should it be like the summertime and they're having to water it, they would let it go a little bit longer. But I think that was kind of, I think, the biggest thing was, you know, minimizing the amount of sedimentation or the potential to have sediment leaving the site through stabilizing it through construction.
All right, so this should tie into that as well. The applicant's efforts to integrate the proposed development into existing landscape through design features such as vegetative buffers, roadside plantings, and the retention of open space and agricultural land.
Yeah, so I guess the buffer, and what we've said at previous meetings, is I think the biggest thing done was the more naturalistic landscape buffer planting approach as opposed to the more linear or formal. I think, you know, back at concept and maybe, I think it was just concept meeting. I think by preliminary we had already updated it. But a more naturalistic buffer to follow both species and kind of planting appearance in the area as opposed to like a really formal or linear planting approach.
The applicant's efforts to design the development to complement and enhance the rural and historic nature of the county, including incorporating into the project forms and materials that reflect the traditional construction patterns of neighboring communities.
Yeah, I think for historic uses, solar is a new energy use. And in the comprehensive plan, it encourages having renewable energy sources, which weren't necessarily a thing of historic times. But I do think what the project has done is both provided a landscape buffer around the outside of the project to help with the screening of the project. Very similar to if you have some other uses within the county, usually they require some form of special exception and have enhanced buffering requirements of a use that is good for the area, that's permitted, but to be screened as opposed to just put on display. So putting the landscape buffer on the project, I think, will help provide screening so that the project can be essentially this, you know, a quiet neighbor. It doesn't generate much more noise that you're gonna hear. There were areas of the site that were avoided during the concept development, mainly that, I'd say, the big hill that's kind of on the western portion of the project. I think at one point in time, it was proposed to be included within the solar development area. It was avoided entirely, so that area was preserved. We talked about the critical area, that the property is in the critical area, at least a portion of it. It was intentionally avoided so that there would be no disturbances in the critical area except for the small areas of landscape planting that would be done to help screen adjacent offsite properties.
All right, and the last one, the building setbacks, area and location of parking, architectural compatibility, signage and landscaping of the development, and how these features harmonize with the surrounding townscape and natural landscape.
Yeah, so I think from an architectural harmonize, you know, the location of the substation across the road from the other substation, it's going to be similar or smaller in scale, and it's in the same general area, though I would say that's probably the thing that we heard in previous meetings, having the biggest concern from a viewshed standpoint. I think we showed that we tried to harmonize with the area by relocating the substation from its initial proposed location, which was adjacent to a residence. It was moved closer to the highway and closer to the commercial zone properties that are across the street. We provide a landscape buffer around the other project. Again, I would say it's in harmony with some of the greater surrounding areas of the county, but not even necessarily across the street where there's a commercial zone with relatively little landscape buffering proposed.
I think that's all I have for you. To the extent that they haven't been introduced yet, I want to introduce the slide deck that we had up in printed form, just so make it easier. Thank you. And also in the event that any submittals haven't been moved into the record, any prior submittals, I'd like to officially move those in as well. Thank you. Unless there are other questions for us, I think that's it for our.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have we just have an interlude before we have public test. I have a sign-up sheet. If you're here, it doesn't say what you want to speak about, the ones that have checked, but I'll read the names, and if you're speaking to this application, want to please step forward and be sworn in. I've got Val Newcomb.
That was me.
Oh, okay, you're Val, right. Valerie, I wrote you down as Valerie. Okay, Edward Hastings. What?
He was still penciled on.
Okay. It didn't say that on the sheet, Carla. You gotta give me all the help you can. No one on this one. There are no other people that have, there's a lot on the list, but they have not signed up to speak on it. Does anyone wish to speak to that now that they've heard the applicant? Please step forward. You'll raise your right hand. This is testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Name and address for the record, please.
Janet Christensen Lewis, and I'm from Millington, Maryland. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview on this project. Urban Grid is currently has a solar array in Queen Anne's County, just across the road, close to the Delaware border. I showed this particular slide after the installation was put in because the treatment of the landscaping material was not very good, as you can see. Next slide. So then I have a few slides here from what the project looks like now, and I think you can pretty much see that this is what you're voting for. This is what the project, it's obviously over time, it will fill in. How much time that takes depends on how well the landscape is taken care of. Next slide. But they're still having difficulty with their trees. Not really, a lot of the trees aren't really thriving. This was a non-irrigated site, so perhaps the site that they're going to put in with irrigation will do a little bit better. Next slide. But they still have difficulty with the trees standing upright. Next slide. And you can see that the solar panel, this is, the road is basically a little bit of a sunken road, so basically the landscaping they have there is already on berms. It's not an installed berm, but it's berm-like because of the way the road is. And you can see that the visualization of the project through the trees, it's not really very concealed. Next slide. I don't think I have, yeah. So the panel from, if you're actually driving by, you can, I mean, it's sort of open and you see a lot of visualization of the landscaping.
Question says July 2025 on there.
Oh,
Was that typed
I got
correct?
that's a typo. I just took those, sorry. I just took those 2 days ago.
So for the record, those.
I can correct the slides.
That were dated July 2025 are from March of 2025.
Right, and I can correct the slide deck and send it to you if you'd like it in the record.
I think it's acceptable just being noted here that
Sorry.
these were taken in March of 2025.
I copied it and just changed the year instead of changing the month too. Sorry. While Urban Grid holds a CPCN from Maryland, from the Maryland PSC, granting them the right to bypass our land use ordinance to install solar generation on this 200-plus acre facility. Today, the Planning Commission, who has reviewed this plan, needs to make the decision about whether they have provided you with enough information to give them an approval. And the question you must answer after weighing all the factors today is that, is their landscaping sufficiently rigorous? And does the Planning Commission have the slightest doubt or feel that it is not being given evidence that the site plan offers the kind of assurances needed to protect the residents of Kent County in the future? Because now would be the time to deny this final site plan and ask for what is needed to fully satisfy your doubts. Once granted, the decision-making process under your control is ended, and the project will proceed with enforcement left to others. I think you've brought that up today, that our staffing in terms of enforcement, and we've seen it in other solar projects around our county, is a little bit lacking. You, as well as the entire population of Kent County, will be stuck with your decision for this industrial project for long into our future. I am not convinced that the current plan satisfies the intent of the comprehensive plan or the requirements of the land use ordinance, primarily regarding landscaping and the importance of our historic landscape and protection of the gateway into Chestertown. However, I'm not in your position, and it is your responsibility alone to determine whether this project upholds the interests of the community. Thank you for the time and consideration.
Is there anyone else? And I see no one. Oh, excuse me. Step forward, please.
I'm just going to say that.
Wait. That's all right. Yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Hope Clark. I live in Chestertown.
Okay, your name and you heard as a testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes,
And
I
again,
do.
you're Ms. Clark from Chester. I didn't hear you.
Yes, that's right. My name is Hope Clark from
Good.
Chestertown. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm just here to say that, it sounds like a great project. I know that we need energy, and we need alternative energy. I've listened to Urban Grid do their presentations a couple of times. I think they're open to community and what we are here so closely with them in their steps going forward. I trust and sound that the way that they are presenting themselves and what they are doing is good for the community. It's good for us, and I think it's good for a lot of aspects of our community. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Paula Reeder, Still Pond.
Is the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I've had the benefit of watching this project evolve over the last nearly 4 years. Every time Urban Grid has been asked to address evolving issues, problems in the community, they've done so, and they've done so honestly and I think in a very detailed and thorough manner, taking time to talk to the principals, taking time to address the commission's concerns, and responding in an affirmative, very affirmative way. As you may be aware, Maryland is facing an energy crisis. As a state, we do not generate enough electric power to satisfy current, much less future, demand. These facilities and this facility itself will go a long way toward helping to ameliorate that problem, especially locally. The issue here is finding solutions that work for everyone, including residents who are facing extraordinary hikes in their electric bill that will only continue and will only increase as the last of the fossil fuel-powered energy generation plants in Maryland are closed this June. I think, personally, having been a part of this process previously, that the opponents' objections, which are frankly unceasing, I don't think they would ever be satisfied. And I would urge you to listen to what's been presented to you, evaluate it fairly, not only in the context of what their clients want to do, but in the context of what we need here in the county. There's no denying that this will make a positive difference, and the sooner they get to start, the sooner the problem will be aided. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Is the testimony about to give the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Alan
Nate?
Durham.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
And you're from?
Galena, Maryland,
Galena,
actually,
okay.
very close to the warehouse, across the
Oh.
street from the warehouse, but it's Galena. It's a projected warehouse. Anyway, the question is about the, I'm being an old farm boy, so I hate to see 200 some acres go to solar panels, but, so with that being said, in 30 years, I don't know, I haven't been to all these meetings, is about the, when it's over and you do the dismantling of it, what does that entail? Is it, maybe you folks know that, I don't know if they're taking everything out so the guy can bring his plows in and start working the ground again, or how, that's one of my concerns about the project,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, they have, and they do have a decommissioning plan. I'll let them address it. I'll let them address it briefly, but that, there is a plan, but,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And do you, someone want to address that briefly, the decommissioning? Oh.
I can address it. Do I need it?
Is testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name and address?
Clinton Eddy. Clinton Eddy. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So for the decommissioning plan, to answer your question, once the project is completed and the lifespan of the project is done, we will go in there. It'll take about 12 months to fully remove all material that is on site. We will take out the wiring, we will take out the piers, recycle, remove the modules, and essentially leave it back to the means in which we found it. The access roads will stay there till the very end. If the owner wants us to remove any of those roads along the way, we will, or it will be done, but we still need to utilize those and the removing of everything else. But in general, it does, outside of the berm and the trees and the irrigation system, it will be removed.
The decommissioning bond, maybe you can speak to this. What is the amount of that?
I do not have that in front of me.
Jump in. That gets revisited about every 5 years, I think, and that bond would change over time. I believe that there has to be information submitted, and that bond. Yeah, it's in our preliminary. Yeah, it's part of the condition of the Public Service Commission.
The amount is what I was
Yes.
asking.
Do you have the decommission? Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Yeah, but they should know. Yeah, oh, I agree. Plus, I want to know what it could be.
I was able to pull the value, for decommissioning specifically, currently in the bond form that we submitted, to the planning department is $783,000 $783,277.
Okay. To return it like Mr. Durham said, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That will be solved.
Thank you. And then, Tom, you were saying it's revisited?
I believe every 5 years that
Yeah.
bond
Yes, sir,
has to
every
be
5 years.
revisited. Yes, it's reassessed every
By
5
who?
years. Every 5 years it
By
gets,
who?
state of Maryland.
Yeah,
State.
it's a CPCN condition.
Right.
But thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yes, sir, come on, please.
My name is Thomas O'Neill, and I live on Creek Lane, which is on the east side of this project. My
Yes, sir.
question
Sir,
is-
can you raise your right hand? Is the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
My wife and I bought a retirement home down here about 10 years ago. And at that time, we looked at the comprehensive plan, and this was included. I understand things change. But my question is, first of all, today we talked about all these plans that all these guys have. And one of the things that concerns me is Creek Lane is a very small street. And construction equipment going up and down it is not going to work. Is that part of your plan to be able to use that, traffic? When you do traffic management?
No, the traffic management plan essentially says Morg Neck to River Road to
Yes.
301.
That's
And then
correct.
you get north and south on 301.
Right.
That's the only road that truck traffic can use, again, unless there's an accident or a tree across the road, then local roads would use like any other detour. But they have to stick to state routes essentially.
It is not our intent to use Creek Lane.
Correct.
What recourse do I have if you do use it?
Yeah.
In all seriousness, that's what, we have a site manager on site every day, and
Right.
Clinton, who just spoke, he's the project manager, he'll be here every month or a week.
Yeah.
He'll be on site, but our contact information is public on the website, and the site manager will make sure, we will do a letter regarding the results and the mobilization date to all the neighbors with the contact information of who to call, so everyone's aware of the schedule. And what to do if you see something, you know, if we back over a mailbox, let me know.
Well,
Does that happen?
we have pets and grandkids, that's what I'm concerned
Oh,
about.
absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
All
Yeah,
right.
if you, sorry, and you get my number, but if you ever have anyone going down, your road that's from my side, yeah, you let me know.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Hearing none, it's back up here for,
No, I was just gonna say, can I address Janet, but if are you bringing us back up?
If not, we'd like to.
Just
put that
really
comment.
briefly.
all right, come on, for summary, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
sure,
you.
very briefly, just addressing Janet's concerns, if she's still here, yeah. You know, this is why we have Janet on the committee. She holds us accountable. People like Janet make solar better, make developers better. Our project at Jones Farm, that is not really considered a buffer. Those trees were installed last summer to get ahead, or early fall, I think, to get ahead of planting season. There is work underway to improve it. You're right. You took pictures a couple days ago. That doesn't cut it. I just did screenshots and sent to our project manager. So, you know, I appreciate her keeping us accountable and assure you that the plan we have for Morg Neck Road, it's a different county, it's a different set of regulations, different requirements. We definitely up the game because of people like Janet. So I did want to address her with all respect and say, you know, we're going to go down to Queen Anne's and straighten that out. But I just want to, if you have any other comments, let me know.
Thank you. Anyone else? Good. We're up here for recommendation for site plan approval.
I got a couple questions.
Okay.
One, you mentioned you're available if there's a problem, if the public has a problem, you're available. I'm going to have to ask Bill, who within the county, would there be, let's say, a list of people, or who within the county would be the person that the county person who's got a problem would contact? you know, can that be put on the list with that, you know, because let's say I had a problem. I didn't really want to deal with you, or I didn't know who you were. Who in the county would I go to? Who would that person go to? That's what I would look for there, that channel. And the other concern I have is the construction with the heavy equipment going. Is there going to be a certain hours of operation or whatever that they would do? Grant, you're going to get into summer, and I'll be honest, I don't really want to sit at home eating dinner and hearing a bulldozer going across the street, you know, and backing up and all the all the safety features of beep, beep, beep going on, you know, 7, 8 o'clock at night. Is there any kind of hours of operation? Yeah.
Currently, it's 8 to 3 is what's been proposed for our hours of operation.
Okay. Yeah, because it's, I mean, obviously I've heard sites, you know, sites do get carried away and,
It is part of the traffic control plan, and so if they do go.
Can you answer at the mic, sir?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
yeah,
State your name again, just your name.
Clinton Eddy.
Okay, so they can hear it.
So the current traffic control plan that has been submitted for review is proposing for the traffic from 8 to 3 would be, so that'd be for deliveries of heavy equipment and materials.
and what about the operation of them, while you're grading and plowing and doing whatever else?
That I would need to pose to DEPCOM, but usually the workday is done by 4 or 5.
Yeah, no, I'm just concerned that it goes on into the evening, because it's a nice day, and you know, you got good weather, and it's, you know,
No, I
I just see
understand.
it happen, that's all.
If there was ever a need that we would go further, we would ask permissions from the county at that point.
At least let somebody know, yeah, within.
There you go.
We better get Bill a hotline.
Okay, let's,
Can I just ask one quick question?
sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry. What are the hours of operation of the, that area is always pretty congested when kids are coming?
Jan, if you're going to come, with that, Bill has to hear it on the tape.
Or if you can repeat the question, either one.
Oh, I have to come up front?
Yeah, just so they can hear it on the tape.
Janet Christensen. I just had a question about the hours of operation of the Christian school. That's right, pretty close by, because I know that when I'm coming and going from Chestertown, there's like a ton of traffic dropping kids off there. And what are their hours of operation, and how is this going to impact the school? That's all. Thanks.
I don't know if you want to try to address that, or Valerie.
We can certainly follow up. The plan, the traffic plan definitely will be distributed with, all schools in the area, the school district, and we can follow up if it's a private school and make sure that we're clear on when they're coming and going. But I just wrote down as a follow-up
Okay, thank you.
on traffic. And I can communicate that back to Bill.
Okay. Thank you. All right, commissioners, members, what do you think?
Well, I have a problem making a motion because they have fulfilled all the obligations that we've given them over the course of this approval process. But it's still not allowed on those zoning districts, the underlying districts, so. But the Public Service Commission says it is. So, I would make a recommendation that we grant final approval for Morgan Road Solar LLC, that even though the county land use ordinance does not allow utility scale solar on rural residential land, village, intense village, and community residential, the Maryland Public Service Commission has given them a CPCN to operate this system.
I would just note for the record that there was a decision by the Court of Appeals of Maryland, which is now the Court of Special Appeals, stating that state law preempts our county zoning law with respect to the siting of utility scale solar. So your point is noted. I'm not saying I agree with that decision, but that's the court decision that our this law has been preempted by the state law.
But you're still including that in there? Thank you.
Yes. With the granting, with the following conditions, that they get a Maryland Department of Transit / SHA approval for the proposed facility entrance, approval of the landscape maintenance agreement, approval and recordation of the deed of forest conservation easement and agreement, approval of the erosion and sediment control and stormwater management plans, approval of sureties for sediment and erosion control and stormwater management, submission and approval of sureties for landscape maintenance.
Can you stop there? Can you add that clarity on item 7, just on that? The landscape agreement says that the county will be direct them to plant. I just want them to be responsible to report to plant their.
And the county will be responsible, or what is that?
It's that the county does not have to direct them. In other words, item 7, I think the attorney, she mentioned they would work with Tom to adopt that.
Well, the landscaping and maintenance and inspection agreement,
Item
that
7.
during the terms of this agreement, the applicant shall remove dead and dying plant material and plant replacement plant material
As needed.
as needed.
Thank you, Bill. I'm sorry to interrupt.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure we leave some room in there for us to discuss language and regarding, time frame to do that and all. Certainly want to be responsible for removal of the plant material. I just want to be, able to have a condition of approval of this landscape
We
plan.
get to see that. Our county has not done a great job. I'm just speaking for all county members. Our landscape ordinances are good, but we don't have the staff to completely inspect them. And it looks to me like we would have to go out and take citizen complaints where you should replant like you do in our own yard, especially if you have irrigation. You can buy material all the time. If you got enough irrigation, you can plant them. But I just don't want it to be the county's responsibility to send letters that don't get addressed for weeks, not because of any malfeasance, just because it takes time.
Yeah, maybe
Understood.
one way to address that is to say that the developer has to replant regardless of whether or not they've been directed to by the county. Because I think we have to keep in there a provision that if we tell them to do something and they don't do it, they're in default. But at the same time, put the responsibility on them that we expect them to take care of things, and if they see something that's died, that they need to replace it without us having to tell them to.
That's my.
So I think regardless of whether or not you're directed by the county, that may be sufficient.
Right, I think the concern was more of the timing of that.
How much time do you need to replant? But I don't know how we do that because it's based on discovery when you find out, but then we expect you to be, when I say you, I mean the developer, to be paying attention to the project, and if you see something that's dead, to replace it right away.
Well, if all goes according to plan, we'll have our grazers there, we will have folks in the area at the site, and we could possibly, if I'm hearing you say you're concerned that if someone doesn't notice or something.
I'm concerned what I see on other solar installations, not necessarily yours. I just see it.
Right.
The reality in the solar world, this project will be sold 4 or 5 times in our lifetime. And
Right.
Are you still, if I can, is Mr. Neff still doing the plantings? The gentleman that was in here at the last meeting?
Stormy from Chester River Landscaping, he was here.
We're working on the awards for the maintenance program. So that's what I was getting at. Because we're gonna have people here, whoever is responsible for the maintenance, there'll be some check-in mechanism. I'm thinking about coordinating with Urban Grid and the county, with Bill's office, to make sure there's some conduit. We do have a public website, people can let us know if there's citizens who see something. If you're saying there's not a capacity to do an inspection, I don't know, Genevieve, how we incorporate that into the.
Well, there's places we won't even see, but, but only neighbors will see, maybe Mr., Farrow and all.
Right.
See, that we keep changing things. I have to pause on my recommendation, but At the last meeting, you brought Mr. Stormy Neff in here, and he said he was going to be, as I understood it, he was going to be doing the installation, and he was going to be doing the maintenance and guaranteeing his plants for so many years. I certainly hope you're not getting a guy on Jones Farm to plant them.
So
Not that.
my concern with, without putting some kind of grace period in there would be that it would be an immediate default if the plant was, dead and not replaced, immediately. That's where I'm coming from, and I don't know if we can write in some sort of grace period to cure a default or something along those lines. But, I just wanted to address that now as these are being made conditions, right?
I would trust our staff to, but we would need someone in this hearing, someone in the county, particularly on staff, I know they don't always time, but if there is a problem if there's dead trees out there for a long time that, or haven't been replaced or removed, that it can't go on, I just hate them to have to wait and call. This is just past history of what I see. Just visual, anecdotal, but, the reality is these projects aren't always landscaped. They planted well, but they aren't maintained well.
The current landscape maintenance agreement is not been executed, correct?
Correct.
I mean, it still can be modified. So we're putting that as a condition of this, so.
Well, look, if I can get back to it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't know that we need to hammer out that landmark.
Yeah, right, that's my point. And
Now, Mr. Carper had his hand up. He might be able to give us
I
some
will
insight.
amend that to say, submission and approval of sureties of the landscape maintenance plan as amended after meeting with attorneys.
Okay.
I believe Mr. Carper had something to add.
I was just going to comment, their vegetative maintenance plan does make recommendations for set number of inspections of the plantings throughout the initial years of its implementation. So they do offer some language.
We didn't have time to look at that, the one we got today, but,
That's why I wanted to,
okay, thank you.
so there is a mechanism for them to be on site and do inspections.
Bill, are you following all this? Can I get back to it now?
I actually wanted to ask you one question. So I think I followed your motion with no problem. And this discussion is a side discussion, sort of a mid-motion discussion, we'll call it discussion. But, so submission and approval of sureties for landscape maintenance plan as amended after meeting with
The attorneys.
the attorneys. Thank you.
We find that they have made reasonable fulfillment of section 5.3B.16 as far as conformance A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K. That they have met the requirements of section 11, countywide standards for utility solar energy systems, under A, 1 through 6, under B, installation and maintenance standards, 1 through 10, under C, landscape buffer for utility scale solar systems, 1 through 8, under 8, A, B, C, D, and E. Item D, landscape berm. Items 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 5. Under item E for irrigation, numbers 1, 2, and 3. Under item F, the maintenance agreement is in the process of being formalized. Item G, the sureties are in the process of being done. Item H, I, J, K, 1 through 10 have been met.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. Any discussion? I'll call the question.
I got one question.
Okay.
One question. In here, we recommend that it's going to be, recommending that it's going to be approved. It says approval of several items here. Who's doing the approval?
The Department of Planning and Zoning.
And if I can clarify, with site plans, the chair would sign the site plan when all of those items are final. So they don't get a signed site plan, but everything that's pending or to be approved, et cetera, has been completed.
They would all have to be approved,
That's the last step prior to actual signature. So it's not signed until all those things are complete.
I mean, it says it needs the approval, but it doesn't say who or when or what, that's all.
That's just our policy.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Call the question. Bill Crowdy.
Aye.
Paul Ruge.
Aye.
Sean Jones.
Aye.
Ray Strong.
Aye.
Jim Saunders.
Aye.
And I'll vote with the affirmative. Thank you. Our next applicant is 2368 KNR Convenience Store. This is a major site plan, final review. This is our planning commission. This isn't a staff person. What time, anyone want to take a break here, up here? I know we're good. Okay, we'll keep going.
Give them time to do
Yeah. Well, they can long.
It's pretty noisy.
Thanks, Bill, on that commentary on the thing. I like it. Stick it in when you can. It just took 4 meetings. They could have addressed it all the first time. They knew that. Look at the number of people who wasted money on 4 trips. Thanks, Carla. Please quiet in the room, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Carla. Thank you.
So KNR and Kevin Sharon are here to seek final site plan approval for the construction of a new convenience store and deli at 10816 Wharton Road. As you know, this is the 3rd time this project has been here, and staff does recommend granting final approval with sort of our standard kind of conditions that the approval of the sediment erosion control and stormwater management plans and submission of any required sureties takes place. The proposed building meets the setback requirements. As far as environmental standards go, the project was exempt from forest conservation, and stormwater and sediment control are under review. We reviewed the design standards, and you took votes on those at the time that we came forward for preliminary approval concerning the building arrangement, site design, the parking area, and landscaping. So the site does have 15 regular parking spaces and 1 ADA accessible space. The building elevations have been submitted and appear to comply with the building design standards. As far as site plan review goes, staff and TAC comments. The proposal is consistent with strategies and goals of the comprehensive plan. The property is served by public water and sewer. The number of parking spaces meet the standards. There are no known impacts of or unreasonable demands on public services or infrastructure. The health department will need to give a food service approval prior to commencing construction. The citizen participation plan was held. The applicant, I believe, is still awaiting comments from Department of Public Works, but those comments should not affect the overall site design. The applicant has noted an ice chest and propane cage on the site plan. The staff has discussed with Mr. Sharon that location, and I believe an alternative site might be presented where they are right now is kind of between the building and the road, sort of sitting on a concrete pad by themselves without really any landscaping around them, kind of in the vicinity of where the bike rack will go. And there may be a less intrusive location for those two items. And I'll let Mr. Sharon speak to that when he comes forward. At the time that the staff report was done, we did not have sign or lighting details, and I believe that Mr. Sharon will present some of that information as well. I will say that for the detached sign that I have seen so far, it does meet with our size criteria for 25 square feet. And as I said, staff does recommend granting final approval, with sort of the caveat that if the sign and lighting details aren't found to be sufficient, that you might decide to hold off on giving that site plan approval or require them to come back for those two items at a future date. The other things that are still sort of missing are more administrative and can be handled outside of the site design approval.
Thank you, Carl. Does the applicant or their representative step forward? Name and address for the record.
Kevin Sharon, DMS and Associates, business address P.O. Box 80, Centerville, Maryland.
Neil Datta, 201 Branwell Lane, Churchill, Maryland.
Good. Can you raise your right hand? Your testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. Go ahead. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As Ms. Gerber said, we have been here a couple other times, once for concept plan review and then for preliminary. Seeking final site plan approval today. As she mentioned, when we were here for preliminary, there was discussion by the Planning Commission and a recommendation by the Planning Commission that we take a look at moving the propane cage and the ice chest out from in front of the store. So we slid it down the sidewalk towards Porter's Grove Road, but then through the TAC comments, it was brought to our attention that that may not be the best location. So we took a look at another site, and what we're proposing to do is put it next to the trash corral, where the kind of the crosshatch walk is. So it'll be accessible. People can get their ice and then go on into the parking lot. So with that, we have submitted for review to all agencies. We have gotten comments back and responded to stormwater management comments. There's just a couple of small edits left to do, change the wording of a frame to a rim, and a couple other minor things. The signage, I did meet with Carla and went back and forth a little bit on the sign size, but I can pass this around, but essentially it'll be a freestanding sign, 15 feet tall with no more than 25 square feet, which is permitted by the code. And then there's a couple of images here that'll be similar to Sonny's Mart out on Flatland Road in terms of the color and font and whatnot. So I can pass these around for you all to take a look at them. Sorry, they're just a couple there. Thank you. The lighting, because the parking lot's so small, there's really no need for a separate pole light. So the only lighting will be wall-mounted lighting, downlight, dark sky compatible, around 3 sides of the building, or at least 2 sides. So with that, we open it up for any questions, and happy to answer anything you might have.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
Kevin, have you ever contacted the railroad, it's the Maryland-Delaware Railroad, about getting relief from that easement on it?
No, we have not.
It just strikes me as, I think that easement came about in the 1960s, and that building's been there since the 1900s.
Right.
If you could get relief from that building, or from that restriction, or even a portion of it, you could pull that building towards the front, ask for a side yard variance, which would still leave you 33 feet off the center line of that railroad track. And probably let you get that entrance moved up Porter's Grove Road another 50, 60 feet. Because I've said it before, and I apologize for not being here during the preliminary hearing, but that is dangerous. And I don't care what anyone says, and that's why when you came in here with concept plan, I asked at that time that we get something in writing from the county engineer, Department of Public Works, that they didn't deem that as being a problem. And we're 6 months later and we haven't gotten that letter yet. When you come down, I just feel like, look, I want to see something there. I just feel like when you come down Porter's Grove Road, your parking area is only 3 to 5 feet off the edge of paving now. This board, along with the Department of Public Works, said that the entrance on the dollar store was dangerous, too close to the intersection, and it's another 30 or 40 feet further west than this one. I just think if you came down there, the only thing you would have to ask for is a side yard variance, and your 50 by 50 foot building would fit. Then you'd comply with the ordinance as far as parking in the rear and not in the side. It just looks to me like when I look at this, we're just trying to pack 5 pounds of potatoes in a 2-pound sack. The site's small. I look at it as, I can't see why, the railroad wouldn't grant that. I haven't ever talked to them on this project, but I've talked to them on other things. They seem at least they're accessible. But I would prefer to see that at least looked at. Maybe the state highway could, they came through here in 1970 and gave all these property owners $1 and took away all right to get off the highway onto their property. But I think they can be worked different. That's my problem. And then I did have a problem, of course, with your propane gas cage that's 5 feet tall, sitting 3 feet off the edge of the paving with oncoming traffic. But just this morning, 9 pieces of farm equipment came down this road that took up the entire paved portion of that road and a portion of the shoulder. And we deal with that on that road all through March, most of April, and then with the dairy farms around there, probably 3 times during the summer of hauling probably 200 or 300 loads of manure down that road. When you come off of 297 on the Porter's Grove Road heading south and then going west, you only have about 80 feet before you're into traffic turning in and out of that proposed entrance. I think if you shoved it up the road further, it would be fine. And I think that if you could possibly, I would at least explore getting relief from the easement from the railroad. I mean, you're taking away more of a building that's there blocking it and not going any further, blocking their view than what's there already. As a matter of fact, blocking less of their view. My goodness, if you don't know a car's coming, by the time you get up there, he starts blowing that horn a mile down the railroad track. But that's just my feelings. It just looks dangerous to me. And to think that a truck coming in there to load and unload supplies isn't going to park right out there on the edge of Porter's Grove Road and hand truck it in there instead of fighting trying to whip around inside. I can see him sitting there.
Thank you, Bill. Anyone else?
Can I address a couple of those comments?
Sure.
With all due respect, sometimes we take these projects through and we do combined concept preliminary, combined preliminary final. This one, we've gone through all 3 steps, And we made it very clear at the very first step, the concept, that we would be seeking the parking in the front and the building in the back. We did not, we were not asked to, but we did not approach the railroad company. Our experience with the railroad company is they are not easy to deal with. It's a state agency. It's full of bureaucracy, and for them to give up an easement that is beneficial to their conductors, I think would be a pretty tall ask. So that said, we wound up with the site layout that we did. The location of the entrance, although we have not gotten any response from DPW yet, the entrance is about 140 feet from the stop bar for Wharton Road, which allows for at least 7 cars to stack. So coming up Porter's Grove Road, you're approaching a stop sign, so speeds are reducing, as opposed to the Dollar General entrance, where they're still going full speed through that intersection. So I don't think those are comparable, and I think the layout is efficient, compact, and it doesn't obstruct visibility at the intersection for people turning onto Wharton Road coming off of Porter's Grove Road.
Well, you said you haven't heard back from DPW. How does that, they don't respond, or?
So they're very busy.
Yeah,
They didn't get us comments on sewer and water or the access, but I would imagine that no comments mean it's okay, but we don't know that for sure.
They don't come to TAC?
Not generally.
They provide comments to TAC, yes.
Right.
Sometimes they attend, sometimes they don't, depending on their schedule,
Okay.
size of the agenda.
Okay. Any questions, or go ahead?
Well, I can just say that the Kent County Road Design and Construction Standards stipulate in it, it says, the intersection design shall be designed with adequate corner sight distance and kept free of obstacles. The corner sight distance for collector streets shall be a minimum of 300 feet and desirably 400 feet or more. The corner sight distance for commercial and residential streets shall be a minimum of 200 feet and desirably more than 300.
Right, and that's referencing sitting at a stop sign, looking left and right, up and down the road, at least 300 feet, not 300 feet from an access point to the stop sign. That's
So
sight
when
distance.
I pull up to the stop sign at that store and look to the right, I can see clear 200 feet,
Absolutely.
not somebody whipping around that corner off of 297.
If you push the building up, you may not see them, but if it's sitting back, it's much more open.
How far is the building off the edge of pavement?
It is 21 feet from, it's about 21 feet from the property line. The edge of pave is actually on the property by a couple of feet, so it's about probably 18 feet. And currently, the existing building is much closer to the road than that.
But nobody's coming out of that building.
I thought you were talking about people swerving off the road.
I'm talking about somebody walking down the street to get to this or pulling out in front of traffic.
As I mentioned earlier, they're approaching a stop sign, so they're not going at speed coming through that intersection, in my opinion.
I will tell you this, Kevin, I live on that street.
I know you do.
I know what they travel on it. And that stop sign, you know when they start hitting their brakes on that thing? About 50 feet from it. All right, I've said my say. You know what my vote is.
Go ahead, Jim.
I understand that you're trying to, that you would like to put this in. And, I have to agree with you. Bill. That's a bad spot now to be able to create this store there, based on the other store on the side of it. It's a lot of traffic go in and out of that Dollar General store, go both ways. It's a terrible lot of traffic. When that other store was open, where you putting it at, Dollar General wasn't there. So they side, where it's set at, too close. Anyway, I would really feel if you could get it back more, it might work.
Get the building back?
Or this,
So let me, I understand your all's concerns. I just want to point out a couple of things. Porter's Grove Road, if I'm not mistaken, at that point is 30 miles an hour. Wharton Road is 30 miles an hour. If people are flying up and down the road, that's an enforcement issue. If you go from this intersection down to 213, that's a 55 mile an hour speed zone with a convenience store that's been there for years on the corner with accesses off both of those roads much closer than this, and it's 2 access points. So, and I don't believe that there have been a number of accidents at that location. I think this location is being blown up as, you know, more traffic than's actually there. It's 2 30-mile-an-hour zones. It's a very small store. I think it's very appropriate for the location.
you travel that,
I used to live in Morton, yes, sir.
do you still live in that?
No, I don't.
Oh, right. You ain't
Traffic
been
got bad. No, I'm just
Been
kidding.
there since the old gentleman there?
I have, yes, sir. Yeah. It's a traveled road, but it is not by any means a congested road or a dangerous road, in my opinion.
Okay.
Anyone else have comments? I have to echo one thing about the farm equipment, because that's a farm right away through there, and it is a problem. I wouldn't want, if I was there, I wouldn't want to park on that side when they're coming down with those wings on the, equipment, because they're gonna take them out. They really are. Because they can't get by unless the cars stop, let them through.
Just a couple concerns. One, since I was the one that brought up the fuel, the containers for the fuel and the ice, in looking at it today, my idea was exactly where you put it.
Okay, good. We're on the same page.
Only because it made the other side yard look better.
Right.
I mean, it's just, but that being said, where do you propose to put this sign on here? Where would your thoughts?
So the sign will probably go near the stormwater management area, closer to the corner.
Where, I'm sorry, just.
Probably, we can discuss this with planning, but most likely it'll be out here so that people can see it coming up and down Wharton Road.
Does that be in the easement? Do you have to get permission from the railroad for that?
No, it'll be outside that easement.
It's gonna be outside the easement.
Yeah, the easement only goes into the property a little ways. So if we go on the north side of the bioretention area, that's outside of that easement.
Yeah, it's just, because my concern, quite honestly, with the signs, I've just seen too many. Granted, I didn't grow up and I'm not from here, but I've seen so many corners that are blocked off by the signs that you can't see to get out. And then you run into Bill's concern, you can't see to get out into traffic. I mean, even where I live just very short, just a couple hundred yards up from Wharton Road. And just pulling out of the road that I live on, I have that U-Haul place there, and they've got that lower sign, you can't see up the road. And that's, no matter what the speed is, you've gotta have some kind of good sight distance. And putting it up in the air, that might help.
Yeah, because you just have a couple of posts.
That's why I'm concerned about that. I agree with Bill, it'd be nice to have it up front, but then again, you getting buildings up close to the road. Personally, I like the way it is here better. It's, even though you're gonna be fairly close to the road, the speed limit is what it is. Farm equipment, there's not much you can do about that around here.
Right.
It's,
gotta deal with it.
without making the roads wider.
Right.
So,
Does this railroad easement doesn't go through the sediment pond?
It does.
So where's the sign then?
sign, I think he's talking right up in here.
The easement's only right up against the railroad. If you look on,
I'm seeing it on the bottom, I don't see where the rest of it is.
if you look on the second sheet,
So wouldn't, the easement, you'd have to be it so that you can see up the road. The whole idea behind this is to see across the property, so I
Right.
would suspect the easement then is probably,
It doesn't go across the whole, it's,
doesn't go across the whole property?
yeah,
Okay, now I see it on the sheet. Okay.
yeah, so it's 30-some feet wide along the railroad track, railroad right-of-way.
Okay.
It's kind of a weird thing, because it seems to me you'd want to see up there.
Just as,
Dollar store would block it.
just as, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to address Mr. Enrique's comments. This board reviewed the new signage regulations that will be going into effect probably May or June, fingers crossed.
I was going to ask you about that.
And you all had suggested that there was sort of a different set of rules for the triangle visibility at different road speeds. That's been
Nice.
incorporated. So the standards that you all adopted will certainly be in effect by the time that this project is under construction. So they'll be following those rules that you all put together.
So they would have to, their sign would have to come under the newly approved ordinances.
Sonny, and just question with the thing we got here, you always do nice attractive buildings, but that, and I know what the enforcement, but all the beer, soda signs all over the buildings, you know, that's the one you have in, down at
Oh, yeah,
Flatland, and Dollar General does it, and I know all of them do it, but we always look at the signs, and then people literally pass through their things. I appreciate the
No,
economy,
it's
but
just-
if you do an attractive building, it would be
I
nice.
want to do attractive.
Morton's a little quiet little village.
I
except for
don't think
downtown.
it's a very big, busy, it's going to be just family-oriented store. It's not going to be like, big box store. But what people normally, everybody needs it, that could be there. So that's what we are trying to establish here. And
Yeah, I understand, and going to Bill's comments about the, the signs, and we'll see what the sign ordinance eventually becomes. But I have to say too, what bothers me is all these little signs that you see, I'll pick on Pips and whatever, as you drive up and down the road, all these little signs that sit out there. You got a sign on the building, and you got, maybe we can write something in there to make some of the accessory signs work, but
Well, Pips is
there's just so much out there that's just, I hate to say it's just garbage.
everybody wants to sell something, that's what it is.
It's true.
Not
That is
me,
true.
means if it is in my hand, I just keep one and that's it.
Now
But
to get
then
into
this
Ken Plaza.
Budweiser guy says, Sonny, you give this guy 2 feet, I need 2 feet. Then the next guy, another come, it's like, you are dealing with all kinds of.
I know, but
We will try to control.
You build a
as much-
nice building, I think
Yes.
it should
Right,
look
Yes.
nice.
You're gonna have a nice looking site, and I
Yes.
would just like to see it stay that way, To get into Kent
I
Plaza
like to
now, how
keep
I
it
find the entrance to Kent Plaza, I look for the T-Mobile signs. I mean,
No,
this is ridiculous.
Okay. Any other,
Well, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Look, I'll play devil's advocate all day long if you want, but you want us to approve a final approval on a site plan. It's not showing where the sign is. It's not showing where the ice box and the propane gas is, the landscaping on that. How do you approve an incomplete plan? We had an attorney come in here not 2 months ago saying, I'm getting information 2 or 3 days before a meeting, or just this morning, and have no chance to comment on it. The public's had this since last Friday. Maybe they need to see what the complete plan is. I don't know. You had 2 months to get the thing done.
All I can say is that's not unusual practice from this planning commission, and we always come through with meeting all the obligations of any outstanding comments.
okay, anyone, more comments, I'm gonna make a motion? Bill, you don't have to make this one, or you can.
I'm not making it. I make it, you won't like it.
Well, that's a motion.
I hate to say it, I agree with Bill, so.
Oh, no, wait, let's hear it. You wanna make a motion then, Paul?
I gotta get the information.
Yes.
Just have to make a point of order. Staff has recommended approval, and we are well able to implement any additional conditions we want to add for final approval to make sure the project meets your standards. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the final site plan of KNR Inc., the convenience store and deli. It's been presented by Kevin Sheeran on behalf of Mr. Sonny Data, KNR Inc. They're requesting, they have requested the final site plan review, or final site plan rather, for construction of a convenience store and deli at 10816 Wharton Road, Wharton. And I would like to include the staff comments that the proposal is consistent with the strategy and goals of the comprehensive plan. The property is served by public sewer and water. The stormwater management and erosion sediment control plans, well, are followed. The number of parking spaces meet the minimum required. There are no known impacts or unreasonable demands on public services and infrastructure. The proposed building elevations have also been submitted. The plan review for the food service facility will need to be obtained and approved by the Kent County Health Department prior to commencing construction. And the proposed building complies with setback, the proposed building complies with the setback requirements. A citizen participation meeting has been held and a report is included in the applicant's materials. The applicant notes that an inlet and storm drain piping have been added along Porter's Grove, and ice chests and propane cage have been shown on the site plan and have, actually, you know what? Yeah, have been shown on the site plan, but has agreed to move it to a new location next to the trash enclosure. And the sign and lighting details have not been provided, and I move that we, the sign and lighting details will be approved by the staff once we have final site signage, what do we want to call it, signage direction or signage, what do we want to call that, Bill? Signage plan, there we go.
Thank you. A second?
You got all that?
Second. Any discussion? I'll call a question. Bill Crowding?
No.
Paul Ruge?
Aye.
Sean Jones?
Aye.
Ray Strong?
Aye.
Jim Saunders? All right. And I'll vote with the affirmative, aye. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Our next applicant is Freedom Properties, GOM LLC. Thanks, Carl.
So, Kevin Sharon, and again on behalf of Freedom Properties, GOM, which we'll note as Great Oak Manor, is requesting preliminary site plan review and approval of their proposed accessory structure that will be used as a demonstration kitchen and yoga studio. Staff is going to recommend granting preliminary approval and notes that in order to receive final approval, the following items must be completed or submitted, and that would be an updated narrative with information on how the conditions of the Board of Appeals decision to change this to a retreat have been addressed, approval of sediment control and stormwater management plans and submission of any required sureties, final landscaping and buffer enhancement plans and submission of those sureties, approval of the Health Department, and recordation of the lot line adjustment. see, staff would note that at this time, there's no change in the number of rooms. The building the Country Inn's been operating, or actually, I guess the Retreat now, has been operating since 1984. The proposed building will offer sort of amenities and accessory uses for both guests of the inn and for other events and activities that may be held on site as permitted through the Retreat designation. A buffer enhancement plan is required for the 4,855 square feet of increase in lot coverage. That can be a mix of canopy and understory trees, and the buffer enhancement plan that is shown on this preliminary plan needs to be updated to include all of the plantings within the buffer. Right now, some are in the buffer and some are not. And stormwater management and sediment control are under review. The parking area is adequate for the guest rooms, and the applicant has shown the area for overflow parking on the site, and that will be screened by a row of evergreen trees. Under site plan review, the application is conformance with the comprehensive plan. We've noted that parking is available. The landscaping has been provided as required for commercial developments. There are some minor changes that need to happen to the buffer enhancement plan. The applicant is working with the health department to determine the adequacy of water and septic areas. The change in use is not going to place additional demands on public services. The applicant is looking to minimize the number of trees that will be removed, and I believe has made some modifications from what is shown on this plan to reduce the number of trees that will be taken out. So due to that, staff recommends, like I said, granting preliminary approval, and I believe Mr. Sharon and the owner of the property are present to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, no other correspondence?
There's no correspondence that's been received.
Will the applicant and representative step forward, please? You're already sworn in. Is the testimony you have to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And you state your name and address for the record, please.
Wharton Bellamy, 10568 Cliff Road.
Thank you, sir.
As Ms. Gerber mentioned, we're here for preliminary approval. As you'll recall, we were here in September of last year for a concept plan review. Part of that review was a request of a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission to the Board of Appeals for the conversion of the property from a country inn to a retreat. We appeared before the Board of Appeals in October of last year, and they voted in favor with conditions, and we received their decision in November. Since then, we've developed the preliminary plans. We've designed stormwater management for the demonstration kitchen and yoga studio building. It'll be a stormwater bioretention area off to the side. That has been reviewed by the county engineering consultant. We've received comments, fairly minor in nature. Mr. Bellamy has hired a septic consultant to evaluate the property, work with the health department. The consultant has gone through a detailed analysis of the projected flow that's going to be generated from the building, submitted that to the health department. It's 541 gallons per day on average. The health department has reviewed that and issued approval of that flow. So now they are going through the approved septic areas and just evaluating that to make sure that there's enough, which there will be plenty of SRA, but that's the only step that's left to be done. And then designing the septic system for the new building. As Carla mentioned, the tree mitigation plan that is part of the preliminary set shows 6 trees coming out as part of the kind of the footprint of the building. After after that was done, we consulted with our landscape architect, and we feel that based on what the tree is, that we were being a little conservative at first, that we think that a couple of the trees on one side of the new building will be able to, or one out of the three on one side of the building will be able to be saved. The other two will definitely be too close to the building to survive. And then the three on the other side of the building where the bioretention area is, we can relocate the bioretention area around the corner a little bit and save all three of those trees. So between now and when we submit for final, we will modify the tree mitigation plan, which will reduce the number of trees removed, thus removing or reducing the number of trees that have to be replanted. And those will be planted in the buffer as per the code, so that'll be coming your way. With that, I don't really have anything else. The conditions of the Board of Appeals were not exactly everything that we were hoping for, but I believe, not to put words in your mouth, that Mr. Bellamy is ready to move forward with this project, and we'll live by the conditions of the board.
Thank you. Mr. Bellamy, you have any
Yeah,
comments?
I would concur. We're ready to move forward. We're comfortable with the conditions, and I think we have a path forward.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments for the applicant?
Kevin, is there anything to keep them from running across the septic reserve area going into that grass parking area? Is there going to be anything there to stop them, or?
Most likely, we'll put a fence up, I would imagine, to kind of keep cars off of that grass area. Or, I don't know, I guess we didn't think about any other, so this right here, to keep cars off of that and compacting that area. Or we could do it with landscaping,
Just something,
something
you know,
to
just,
delineate it.
I know that
Yeah, either fencing or
Mrs. House
landscaping.
tends to frown on it.
And that's only gonna be used, you know, in overflow conditions, so something temporary might be able to be put up.
It'll all be grass anyway.
Correct, right.
If it's only gonna be used during overflow conditions, how many times, how often do you expect to have overflow conditions? If you have a full house in there, you know, in the house, you got what, 15 rooms maximum? There's 13 there now or whatever. And you've got enough parking up by the building for that, assuming one car per room. Therefore, anything that happens with your yoga, and if the yoga, how many times a week are you gonna hold the yoga? That's not a once a month deal. Generally, yoga is 2 or 3 times a week easily, I would think.
Our yoga guests, we anticipate really at most
sorry?
twice a month. Yeah, we're not running a yoga business. It's a yoga amenity.
Okay, because, you know, I'm just looking at that, if you're holding, let's say, regular classes, the same with the test kitchen. Anything that you hold in that building, the parking's gonna be up in that area. Because it's assuming the rest of the building is full. Which is what you would want. I mean, you're gonna want
Yeah.
people to be staying there, so you're gonna want it to be full. So therefore, that becomes, you might say, the main parking lot for anything that happens in that building down below that you're building.
Well,
I guess where I'm going is.
the way we think about that parking, this is excess parking for events for which our current parking just can't accommodate. So for example, Sultana held a fundraiser at the Manor 2 weeks ago. We needed that parking to accommodate that event.
Okay, I'm just, you know, that's just a concern I have, that there's gonna be more people there than, you know, just the guests in the building. And, you know, the guests have a parking lot, have parking spaces, but you don't up there. And that's just, because again, you're gonna leave it grass. I grew up in a town with a fairgrounds, all their parking was on grass. And I'll tell you what, it gets torn up, all you need is 2 or 3 events, and it gets torn up pretty good, especially if it rains. I mean,
That's not been our experience with this
Okay,
lot.
I'm just bringing that up. And is there a drainage plan for that area so that you can keep it somewhat dry? Is there gonna be any kind of drainage up there? Or is it just gonna be just set flat? Because right now, it's pretty much flat. I mean, I've driven by it.
It'll just remain flat, yeah.
And Yeah, I got, what's the how many people would you expect on the site? Yeah, basically, most of my concern is just being able to handle all the cars that are gonna show up on site without having it, turning it to mud. And, it's just making a mess everywhere. And also on your building, any thoughts of, I don't know how you're gonna power it, any thoughts of doing solar? I mean, they make shingles now, solar panels.
We've not discussed solar.
Is there any, when you get into the design of that building, any thoughts to that?
That's not.
I don't get into the design of the building, but that.
I'm just throwing it out.
That's not
I know they
anything-
make shingles now that are literally small solar panels.
Yeah, that's not anything we've discussed.
So, just as a thought to save you a little bit of money in the long run. Cut down on the power.
Thanks. We just haven't talked about it.
Something to look at.
Anyone else?
And this is all one lot now? You're gonna make this all?
After the lot line adjustment is recorded, yes.
After all and that includes the other house that's over, the other
Correct.
residence?
That's right.
Who lives in that other residence? Is that you?
No, I don't live in there. We just use it for staff, like our chef's in there right now.
But there's no mention on the plan as to what you were gonna be using it for, or
We don't have a plan for it yet.
you don't have a plan for it?
No.
Okay. Just asking, I see it, because but it's all gonna be made one lot, which I think that's a
Correct.
good thing.
Correct.
Personally, we've had some things go through here that I would like to have seen made all one lot. I think this is a good thing.
Anyone else? Is there anyone in the public that would speak to this, or no one? Hearing none, it's up here for thoughts for the preliminary site plan for this accessory use. Does anyone see any problems with, any highlights? If not, staff made a recommendation.
Let's see, where's the, I'm looking for the staff's
I don't see
recommendation.
no problems at all.
You will make a recommendation?
I move that we recommendation for permanent approval in order to receive the final approval for the Freedom property in GLM. Okay?
And you need to reference a couple things.
And, your understanding, update the staff recommendation, grant permanent approval in order to receive the final approval of the following items must be completed or submitted. Update, navigate with information on how the condition of Board of Appeals decision has been addressed, approved of certain control and stormwater management plan and submitted of the requirement, approve of the health department and recordation of the line adjustments.
Want to have final landscaping and buffer enhancement plans.
Just that, final landscaping and buffer enhanced plans and submission required, sir.
There you go.
Okay.
That's good. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'll call a question. Jim Saunders? Four. Aye. Ray Strong?
Aye.
Sean Jones?
Aye.
Paul Ruge?
Aye.
Bill? Aye. And I'll vote with the affirmative. So good luck with your project. Look to see the results.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Just one of the questions, well, I have a little wind up in a minute, but from that parking area down to the building, is there going to be any kind of separate walkway away from the, it's not on your plan, but, or would you just walk down the road to the, the driveway to it?
The one, the
Sewer,
satellite
where we had
overflow.
last one.
Will there be like a shuttle or a walkway or?
Yeah, we're gonna cut through, yeah.
Okay, I guess there's.
Yeah, we'll have to have a,
I lost my
walk back.
paper.
So it's-
Maybe
Yeah, yeah.
delineate.
Yeah. I
How
don't,
you would do it, to keep them out of traffic.
Yeah.
that's all.
Thank you all.
thank you.
Carla, you handling the?
This is a recommendation to the county commissioners for an amendment to the comprehensive water and sewerage plan related to the new Millington wastewater treatment plant. The current water and sewer plan identifies the area between Millington and US 301 as a future growth area and indicates that public services, including water and sewer, will be extended. Upon evaluation of options to increase capacity at the existing plant, it was determined that instead a new wastewater treatment plant would be necessary. And so following an engineering feasibility study, a suitable location was identified, and now the county needs to amend its comprehensive water and sewer plan. The 2018 comprehensive plan identifies, as I said, the area between Millington and US 301 as a designated growth area. The plan's primary land use policy encourages development to occur within designated growth areas while preserving the existing character of these communities and their historic and cultural features. And the priority for the county is to locate water and wastewater systems in designated growth areas. So the amendment to the comprehensive water and sewer plan would be consistent with the comprehensive plan. And both the land use ordinance and the zoning map support development and extension of county services into these areas. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission make a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan and the land use ordinance and send a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners for approval of the amendment. The town of Millington has already reviewed this amendment and has also made a favorable recommendation. And there was an attached memo from the Department of Public Works that had sort of specifics on the size of the plant, the expected capacity, and the amount of additional development that could be accommodated with this new facility.
Thank you, Carl. No other correspondence?
No other correspondence.
Questions, staff?
The treatment plant's gonna be right along 301?
The treatment plant is going to be along 291. It will be, you will not see it from the roadway. It's going to be tucked back behind some trees. There is, if you're driving on 291 heading in towards Millington, you've gone past the Food Lion. As you kind of come down, you come down a little hill, and there's an area where a stream crosses underneath 291. So the new wastewater treatment plant is going to be sort of on the left behind those trees, right near where that stream goes through.
Who owns that property?
Russ Richardson, Millington Crossing. Technically, it's Millington Crossing, and the county is in the process of obtaining about 5 acres for this new wastewater treatment plant.
We're having an appraisal done, and there's some other details to work out, but at this point, the county is in negotiations to acquire the property.
Sorry, I could have included that map. I didn't realize it wasn't in here.
But it's generally near the Food Lion, but.
It is.
It's gonna be back from the road.
Correct. And at this point, they are not anticipating putting an entrance from 291 to this facility. The access will be off of a new road that is built through the development of the Millington Crossing property.
And maybe I was trying to read with you, but how does Queen Anne's County how does it affect them? They have houses in this district.
Any existing customers would continue to be served by this new facility, and the county will operate the new facility, serve all existing customers within the town, within the county, and then obviously the new customers that they anticipate through the development of the property. The current wastewater treatment plant will be decommissioned and taken, it'll be done.
What about potential growth in Queen Anne's? Is that in their water and sewer plans, how do they account for it? I guess that's my question. I think obviously we need to do this for lots of reasons, but
right.
Does Queen Anne's County participate in saying, well, we'd like to have, we have our water and sewer master plan. What's theirs say about this?
I am not entirely sure. I know obviously anything that's within the incorporated limits, that's on the Queen Anne's side.
I think at one point there was some talk about perhaps Sudlersville or some other areas of Queen Anne's County being serviced by that, but I don't think any of that's coming to fruition. In fact, Sudlersville has a plant that has more capacity than what the town is using right now. So
I'm talking about the nearby
Well,
property. If we talk
Yeah,
about growth, we
because-
want to grow in Queen Anne's
don't
too.
Correct, because
believe
part of
that that-
Millington's actually in, a part of the corporate boundaries of Millington is in Queen Anne's, but I don't know if Queen Anne's County has considered this as part
As a
of their
growth area.
map amendment
Right,
process.
I'm not sure
I
that
don't
this
know.
is,
But don't they, because of the water and sewer master plans, they must have some idea what they want to do there.
Wouldn't they have some responsibility for helping pay for some of this? It's going to be servicing the
Well,
residents.
they'll pay the fees, like, it's,
well, I mean, that would be the town
Town.
residents.
Right, so if there are town residents in Queen Anne's County that are currently served or would be served, they would be paying as part of residents of the town. If there's somebody in the unincorporated area of Queen Anne's County, generally, if you're just hooking up one person here, one person there, that's all done on a contractual basis. So generally, the cost charged to that customer, because you're not required to bring them in. So the cost would be a function of what the additional cost would be for the county or whoever's operating the plant. If Queen Anne's County is going to create a district and add multiple homes, let's just say there's a sewer district in Queen Anne's, which is currently served by Well Septic, that's going to now be served by this plant, that would have to involve a discussion and memorandums of agreement between Kent County and Queen Anne's County. And to the best of my knowledge, there's been nothing in that regard so far, not even any preliminary type discussions. Right.
Are they not, that hasn't, are they looking to locate that? I mean, they're talking about putting a septic treatment plant right in the middle of where they want the residential and commercial growth to be.
Well, the problem they have is the current plant, Millington, is probably not adequate for the current use because it's old and where it's located, where it discharges, it's not the most optimal location for a plant. So a new plant is needed to serve existing customers, plus the proposed Millington Crossing developments can't be built unless there's water and sewer available. So this plant would be required for that.
my question is, if Millington wants to grow into Queen Anne's County to add it to their town tax base, is there, and assuming there's capacity and all those things, because
Then
Millington Crossing doesn't want to be in
Then Queen Anne's
Millington.
County would go through an
The tax
amendment.
base, what, Millington Crossing is not intended to be in Millington. That was stated at every meeting, they want to work in the county, so the Millington doesn't get, except for the hookup fees or the revenue on quarterly things, they don't get any tax revenue for that. So if they want to grow, that would be the logical place to grow, Queen Anne's.
They're not going to get any revenue for hookup fees because it's going to be owned by the county.
So things may have evolved, but my understanding is that the desire of the Millington Crossing group is for the development to occur in the county because we have some more resources to help them through plans review, inspections, all those things. And that eventually, after the project's developed, they do have the desire to annex into the town in order to help the town's.
But that's their choice, not the town's, that's what I'm getting at.
Well, it almost always is. I mean, forced annexations are a fairly rare thing in Maryland.
It requires a certain percentage of property owners and residents in the area to be annexed to consent.
Well, once they have the hookup, what's their incentive to be in Millington then?
My understanding is that that's part of the big vision because they want the downtown Millington area to be an area that is thriving and prospering to service that neighborhood. So there's a historic district with restored buildings. They talked about setting up a program where they would have grant money to help folks in the downtown, original Millington redo buildings. So that this is again, discussions have been at the public meetings at the Shred.
Yeah, I've been to them all, I'm just saying, I'm talking about the financial ramifications of, if I'm Millington, I want to annex, if I got to build this, I want to get the tax revenue, but they can't force it, so, but what if they have a willing landowner? That's why it seems to me Queen Anne's should be at least considered in this, because that area could help Millington.
And I have to say, responsible for making sure our water and sewer triennial plan is consistent with what, Queen Anne's County triennial plan. I believe that's MDE review. I don't think we're actually required to make sure our plan is consistent. I believe MDE reviews all these plans as part of a formal process.
Oh, I'm sure they do. I wonder why it's not that's not being considered, I guess, that's all. Yeah,
Although I guess the thing to consider would be, I don't think that there's anything that says that the 972 EDUs that are expected to be available have to go in Kent County.
right. I just
this
wondered if
is-
they were considered, Millington, they've, at the meetings, they've pressed their
And
economic
Millington-
base in trying to do that. And
They do, and they have, they don't have existing capacity for the development of the Freeman Evans property. I think that,
This could help infill in Millington.
correct, so, I
provide
mean, Millington
capacity.
does still have some infill areas that have not been developed, because they don't have sewer capacity.
And if I might add one more thing, I think to a bigger question. So this doesn't necessarily provide proof, but in all of the presentations I've seen, calculations I've seen, right, there's the existing town and the demand that they require. There's the contract that the county had. The county contracts with a certain amount, I think is it Sandwood?
Sandfield.
Sandtown.
Sandfield.
Thank you, Sandtown. So in all of those calculations for the plant expectations, there has never been a section that says the contracted value with Queen Anne's County, right? It doesn't appear to be a Queen Anne's County area that is being serviced at all. It's the town and it's Kent County extra jurisdictional. Because of that, I think it is safe to assume, at least on a sort of simple basis, that the limits of the town of Millington are what's anticipated on the other side of the line. But again, I can't say that definitely.
Okay, just
But it is interesting that there is no portion of those calculations that include the same sort of thing that we have on our side, right? They have to provide for those county extra jurisdictional areas that we pay for allocations for.
Okay, just a question.
I think it's a great question, yeah.
We don't need to do anything, just have.
No, you
Oh, we do?
need to kind of make a
Oh,
motion.
Oh,
and-
yeah, resolution, I'm sorry, for
Um,
recommendation for the resolution.
Finding that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the land use ordinance.
Someone make that motion? That was very clear, Carla.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that, move forward with the staff recommendations of the planning commission, that we found consistency with the comprehensive plan and the land use ordinance, and sends a favorable recommendation to the planning commission.
Have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Very good, thank you, Carla.
I hope they're looking for a field to put it on, 900 and some units. That Chester River will be 90% man-made up in that area. It's damn near it now.
Yeah. Got any staff, is that staff reports, or?
I don't think I have anything this month. I'll have stuff next month, because at the end of March, I'm going to the American Planning Association's National Planning Conference. I will have just returned, so I'll probably have all kinds of crazy ideas.
That's Las Vegas? Las Vegas?
It's in Denver, Colorado this year.
Oh, that's nice.
So I don't know if Mark or Rob.
Now, Carl, I don't know if it's the new commissioner portal or what, but when I print those plats out, the biggest I can get them is 8.5 by 12.
We're not adjourned.
Yeah, guys, we're not
We're not
adjourned.
adjourned yet.
We're not turning it off.
Oh, okay.
Let's, kind of motion to adjourn?
No, I
Wait.
think we have one more
Oh.
staff report.
Oh, you do, good, hey.
I do.
Sorry, Mark.
Right.
You do, yeah.
This is my last meeting with you guys. Moving elsewhere.
Hit the road.
I'm hitting the road.
Indeed, Mark, where are you going?
I'm going to Kentucky, near Lexington. I have a family member close to there, aged uncle that needs some assistance, so I feel it's important to be close.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you for your service.
Been a pleasure working with you.
I've really learned a lot from you guys.
Not bad.
Now you've taken all the Kentucky, they got a lot of area to rebuild out
What
there.
county will you be in?
It's Scott County.
I don't know much about Kentucky, but Scotts County's doing a comprehensive rezoning, aren't they? That you would be good at that.
Well, they've updated their comprehensive plan recently. And they're probably well known for having a Toyota plant as well.
Oh, well,
So
yeah.
that's been a big earner.
And Mitch
a lot of
McConnell.
development. What's that?
And Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
And Bourbon.
I don't think he's from Scott County.
Well, congratulations to you. Good luck to you. Thank you for your service.
Been super working with you guys.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
When you leave. I'm sure they're gonna throw a big party for you or something.
My official last day is the 28th of this month.
Okay.
I used to get vacation time for travel to get there, but worked out some arrangement with Carlos and others.
Well, if I don't see you, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget us up here.
I'll never forget.
Yeah. Anything else? Any for the committee motion?